Hey guys, alright, and this is going to be the first of kind of a new start for some things. We've already got a pretty well functioning game here. In this start of this little series, what I want to do is go ahead and create some different monster types. Right now we just have our one basic monster, just our kind of stationary guy. He's just kind of like a barrel or a blockade or something. And what I want to do in this video is I want to cover how to make a moving monster. As a matter of fact, two different kinds of moving monsters. And the way we're going to do this is the first one is going to be a lot like our moving platform. It's going to be a timer. It's going to be super simple, and it's just kind of going to move based upon a time scale. The second one, I want to expand upon that and actually make this one more of a waypoint monster, where it's going to be able to move between two boundaries that we can set up, so that it's a little easier to place and a little more customizable as far as what it can do. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a new monster. So let's go create other. Let's just go with a cylinder this time. All right, so 0, 0, 0. So it'll be at the origin. All right, gonna move it off to the side. I'll put it on a little platform over here. So here's Mr. Monster. All right, let's add I have a monster green. There we go. Just gonna put that on here so he's a green color. And what I want to call this guy now is this is going to be moving monster. Okay, and so that's what he's going to be. He's going to be our moving monster. Now this guy is actually really easy to set up because we've already have so much of his code already set up. So the first thing we want to do is we want to add one of our templates. Alright, so if it's not coming up here, what we want to do is we can go ahead and add an FSM, and then from there we can add the template. It's not really wanting to show up. So let's go to our Playmaker FSM, use template, click on this little button, and I want to use the moving platform template. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is use the moving platform template, and you see it pops up right here. So we have our 5 to 5. Okay, in this case we don't want Y, we want to be on the X. So let's just turn this off, turn our X onto 5, and then this one turn it off and turn our X onto a -5. Okay, so everything else is going to be the exact same as our platform. As a matter of fact, they should be moving the same speed as our last platform down on the end there. So let's actually scale that down. So instead of a -5, we'll just keep it narrow, keep it like a -2. A 2. All right, so it'll be a little slower moving, just so that we can test this thing. So let's go ahead and play, and having it added, and you'll see that it's just kind of moving from state to state. Okay, so there he kind of is going back and forth. All right, so this guy here, oh, we don't want that at 0. There we go. So here and then here. Let's play that one more time. Alright, let's set this guy over to -2, and then this one here to a regular 2. Alright, so all this stuff is set up here. Template, moving platform template on our moving monster. Let's change that name, because if we don't, that's going to get very, very confusing. Alright, so what I want is change this to moving monster move. Alright, so that's what we want this thing to be. Alright, so no. There we go. Check. And monster move. Alright, so when we hit play, it just kind of moves back and forth. Pretty simple, straightforward stuff. Alright, so if we go to our static monster, alright, our static monster, we had updated our hit, and this hit, to health, to die, to drop chance. I want to save this out as a template, right? So I'm going to go ahead and save template, and I want to go monster health template. I want to call this one monster health drop. Okay, template. So that's what I want to create this one. So now we can go back to our moving monster and go to a new FSM. So let's Playmaker, add an FSM to it, paste template, general, monster health drop template, yes, and it should now have a new template dropped in there. Okay, just delete that little state 1, and then now what should happen is he's going to move, and after we shoot him, he'll be gone. Okay, so basic moving monster back and forth with a health system. All right, so all this stuff just kind of gets dropped in there. All right, so that's basically how this one works. This case, I have the template kind of set up. So here's our moving monster FSM. Let's change the name of that one to Monster Health. This labeling really comes in handy when you have a bunch of different FSMs set up. In this case is moving platform template, but we want it to be, let's go ahead and see if I can say none on that template. Alright, so say none, and then that kind of gives us this here template. There we go. So it's still doing its thing. And this thing here, call it moving. Still wants to be rather obnoxious, but there it is. All right, so now we have this one set up. Have a none. Go ahead and say paste a template. All right, this thing's still wanting to be obnoxious, but here it is, the moving platform template, the 2, the -2, and then it also has the regular thing, so it should have the 2 FSMs, an FSM and a monster health. The FSM is the one for the moving. All right, so between the 2 of them, one with a template assigned to it, the other one also uses a template, but it's actually on its FSM. It was copied and added to it. And you have your moving monster back and forth. All right, so ZZZ, shoot it, and it should blow up. All right, so in this case, I'm still not dropping anything, but that's all right. We'll come back and can tweak that stuff later. The next thing is creating a monster that uses waypoints, okay, as a way of controlling its movement between, say, 2 boundaries. So what I want to do is let's create a new monster. So game object, and we're going to create another cylinder. All right, and this guy, again, set it at 0, 0, 0. Okay, and then this guy, what I want to do, so we'll go ahead and move it to the side as well. All right, kind of out of the way of things. And this cylinder, I want to call this guy monster waypoint, moving way monster. There you go, for waypoint monster. All right, I'll put waypoint. Moving waypoint monster. All right, so first thing we need to add to this guy is add a template. We'll go ahead and add the, let's see here, let's add an FSM. Let's go to add a template to it. So let's go to monster drop template. Boom. All right, so that's pretty simple stuff. We can go back in and change its health as well. Let's add a color to him as well. So let's go back to that monster green, because he's going to be a mover. And we need to add another FSM to this guy. So let's add another one. All right. So this one's going to require another separate object, as well as requiring the kind of movement. All right. So what we want to have happen here is this monster, being as cool as he is, what we want him to do is we just want him basically to transform. All right. There's 2 things this guy needs to do. He needs to transform, translate. Let's just move him in the X direction by, say, about 5 per second. You know, every frame. I like the kind of fixed or late update to kind of help things along. All right, and so what he's going to do is he is going to translate in that direction. That's all I'm wanting him to do, till he encounters a trigger. Okay, so what we want to do is go ahead and add a, where are you, physics, and set a trigger event. Okay. And on trigger, and we're going to add this trigger here in a minute. We want to send it an event, and I want to call it switch. Okay. And what we want to have happen is add a second state here, add our transition for switch. All right, and on switching, what we want to do is go ahead, go back to transform. I want you to rotate and rotate around the y-axis 180 degrees. Okay, that's all I want you to do is rotate 180 degrees, and when you're finished, right, I want you to go back to switching again. Okay, so what I want to do, this monster do is translate, and if it comes in contact with a trigger, okay, then we want it to flip around 180 degrees and keep moving. Okay, so what trigger do we want to have? Well, let's go ahead and create a game object, create another, and I'm going to call this one, just make a little cube. Okay, this little guy here. Hit R, kind of scale it up, scale it over, and move it down, something along like that. Just something that's like makes a barrier. It doesn't have to be that thick. Just something we can show as a barrier. And this is going to be our trigger. So I'm going to call this thing cube trigger. All right, I'm going to tag it as a cube trigger. This is so that we can screen this from all other objects. I've already created one called cube trigger, and that's what I want to use for it. And then I'm going to where it says is trigger on cube trigger, make sure that's checked because I don't want things to collide with it. I want things to pass through and be held up as a trigger. And then I've created what I would call a ghost material. What I end up doing, I'll go ahead and I'll delete this one and create a new ghost material. So right click, create material, call this thing ghost, and change the shader to a diffuse transparent. Okay, and then what I want to do is where it says alpha texture, I'm going to select this, and in this bunch of weird random things, this is softy looking thing over on this side, and that's just what I'm going to select because it has a nice little blend to it. And when I assign this to our trigger, what you're going to see is that it's going to give us this nice kind of fade out, so we can still see where it is, but it is almost visible, so we can see through it, but at the same time we know where it is. What we'll end up doing during the gameplay is we'll turn the mesh renderer off or remove it so that nobody playing the game would be able to see where this thing is. But for our debugging phase, this is what we want to do, is we want to have this trigger here. So what I want to do is move the trigger kind of out of the way a little bit, like so, and then here is our guy. And make sure that we have our switch set up. So collide tag, whenever it collides with our cube trigger, we want it to send the event switch, okay, and that will make it rotate 180 degrees. So let's see what this does when we hit play. Nothing, absolutely nothing. It's going to go right through it. That's not good. So how do we solve this one? Well, the simple answer is it needs a rigid body. Because it needs that physics, that rigid body, in order to create that collision. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a rigid body, and just like we've done before, I'm going to make sure that is kinematic is select. That way it doesn't have things causing it to bounce all over the world or whatever. It just kind of uses the collision part, or the collision detection part of the rigid body, in order to get things accomplished. So that's what happens this time. Okay, other than the whole getting stuck thing, working a lot better. All right, so check you here, check you here. All right, so hit play. All right, well, now it stopped. All right, the devil is in the details, guys. Under this rotate, make sure you turn off every frame. Every frame will cause it to instantly spin around a bajillion times, okay? By turning off every frame, we just want to do 180 degrees once and then go back to its movement self. So now when we hit it, it's going to load and it's going to bounce back, okay? You see that? All the way off the board, okay? So we could have it use gravity and then it wouldn't, then it just kind of fall off the board, I guess, if we wanted it to. But in the meantime, it's doing what we want it to do. So what we want to do now is have this trigger here. Grab our trigger. And then do a Command D, duplicate it, place it on the other side, and hit play. And so now we have a situation where our moving waypoint monster is moving between the 2 points. Okay, so it's still definitely killable. So I can kill one waypoint monster and then have it kill the other said waypoint monster and move right along. Alright, so on to the next monster.